welcome. Welcome to this edition of What Matters. I'm here today with Coach Drew.
Hey, everybody.
He is fresh out of his seminar.
Yeah, we had session one at noon today. It was really good.
Really good. Session two is coming up.
8:30.
8:30 p.m. And we do have one of our viewers who will be joining you.
Yes,
and
yes.
hopefully another lucky viewer will be able to join you this evening as well. And I will also be on the seminar because we can always up our journaling skills.
Always.
Now, the journaling part, which we're not going to give all away, so you will have to go to the seminar, but we will talk a bit about journaling today.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go into that, tell me a bit about the 6 keys to effective journaling, which is the name of your seminar that's happening today.
So, the goal of the seminar is to encourage people to not only be consistent, but to really focus in on getting the most out of their journaling.
Right.
Because there's different kinds of journaling, and I list some during the webinar, but each one has a different kind of focus.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing this kind of work for about 15 years, I listen well to people most of the time. And I'm able to hear the flavor of people's thoughts.
Right.
And different people have different thought patterns, so it's important to know what yours are so you can become familiar with them, right?
I like that, the flavor of your thoughts. And that actually, I think, whoever's out there you watch live or on the replay, I want you to give your thoughts a flavor. What flavor do your thoughts have?
Are they spicy?
Are they spicy? Are they like vanilla black? I want to know what flavor your thoughts have. I think mine are a little bit rainbow sprinkled. Yeah, they're assorted, they're all over the place, but they go well together.
See, but what's interesting is you're already inviting people to think about their thoughts.
Yes.
And that is the whole purpose behind journaling. It's not just about what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about, because in schools, this is one of my big issues, one of the things I want to address all around the world. We teach people what to think.
Yes.
Right? But we don't teach them how to think. Right? Even as parents, we have the best of intentions for our kids, and we want to instill the right values. But we don't teach them how to think and how to validate their own perspective, their own position. We might teach them how to argue, but we don't necessarily teach them how to, think.
Right. Well, I know you talk about your daughters a lot, and I know they are your biggest teachers. They are the people who probably by far taught you the most about a lot of things.
Myself.
About yourself mostly, right? All you got to do is make a mini you, and you will figure out why your mother complained. But in that teaching them how to think, I think I've done a reasonable job, especially with my last 2, even the first one. And it's very challenging when you have thinkers, like true, authentic thinkers.
Mm-hmm. They
challenge you constantly. And it's not like the way a lot of us were raised, that old school where like you said, they just taught you what to think. This is what is right and this is what is wrong, and not delving into that. And on any platform that I'm on, that is something that that is one of the most important things to me, is for people to think about why they think the way they think. I'm not trying to change your mind or make you think differently. I just want people to examine why they think the way they think. And I think that leads to even deeper thought about the validity of the beliefs you've had and so forth. So in the journaling, this is not about, your seminar is not about, okay, indent, here's your date, double space. It's more of the recording of your thoughts so that you can process them and reflect. Am I right?
Exactly. And, as you were talking, I was thinking, there's a difference between why you hold a position and why you think the way that you think.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Right? So a lot of the times it sounds like a small difference, but it's a very, very big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. I agree. Our children teach us so much. And what's really great about it is the things that you'll learn about the language who was it? Shakespeare said, "Your speech betrays you."
Yes.
Well, it can be our best ally in figuring out what people are actually thinking. So I literally listen to my daughter sometimes, and then I catch the train of thought.
Yes.
I can see where it's going. I hear where it's going. I know what flavor is. I know what pattern that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, okay. And then I can ask her particular questions to already start to disassemble that potential patterned way of thinking that's going to become problematic.
Right. And you just said something very interesting. Just a few minutes ago, I said, figure out what the flavor of your thought is. But you just said something that really triggered that thought. And Anisha said something earlier, is that sometimes you talk about raising your awareness of yourself. Like that is extremely important. And sometimes we don't even recognize the flavor of our thoughts.
No, we don't.
It's someone else listening to you that will say, wow, you're being really negative. And you're like, no, I'm just stating facts. Well, the whole thing was said really negatively. Or, you seem really angry or bitter. And to you, you're relaying your thoughts or your feelings as they are to you. But the words that you use and tone is extremely important.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
get
yes.
caught up in the text message world. That really belies the tone of the flavor of your thoughts. So that observation of someone standing from the outside looking in, being able to say, hey, you seem to be going down that. But the power in the six keys to effective journaling is that you become the person who kind of steps outside and can look at yourself and figure out what these thought patterns you have.
Right. It was I was looking at some quotes, and I think it was Plato who said, "Thinking is the soul listening to itself, talking to itself," and that's what journaling is really going to help people do. It moves us from being on autopilot to really intentionally listening and then choosing the thoughts. Like, we can choose what we want to think about something.
Right.
And it's when we change our thoughts, we change our emotions, and then we change our behaviors, which will change our life. So if we want a life change, some people think I got to go out and get a new job. No, go out and get a journal. Go out and get a journal.
I like that. I like that.
Let's figure this out. I can get from here to home virtually on autopilot.
Absolutely, I've done
Right?
it.
I'm not advising that, but most of us who drive, we know that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
We do that same kind of thing in our thoughts,
In our lives.
in our relationships. We're on autopilot. We're somewhere else, and we're just going about.
And you end up in the same mess that you're always in. Same kind of relationship.
We wonder why.
Same kind of, because have you ever done this? The drivers, the people who've been driving a long time, have you ever just gone home? You weren't going home, but you find yourself on the path going home. And you're like, why am I on this?
Wrong turn.
Because you stopped thinking and you were just on autopilot. So yes, you stopped at your stop signs, but
most of the time. Right.
But you end up going home. And I love that analogy because it really clicked in for me that often in life, that's what we do. And you said something that was really important. In order for me to be happy, I need to change my job, my partner, my location, my home. If you change your train of thought, those same exact things take on different meaning, right?
Yeah.
So when you change the way that you think, and this is not some pseudo, fairy, change your thoughts, change your life. What you think is what you are, is what you do. It
matters.
It completely matters.
Yeah.
It totally matters. So today we want to talk about getting out of your own way. And before we run out of time, before this break, what is it, in your words, Andrew, because he has good words, what is it to be in your own way? What does that mean?
Well, so we use the language about, being your own best friend.
Yes.
Right? When you're in your own way,
Mm-hmm.
you're not being your own best friend. At least you're not being a good one.
No.
Right? You are either telling yourself things that are not helpful
Mm-hmm.
or encouraging yourself to stay where you're at. You're keeping yourself blind to all the possibilities out there, right? I was talking to some friends last night, and they highlighted that sometimes we buy into this idea of failure because it protects us.
Right.
Right? We buy into fear. Like, fear is going to protect us from things.
Right. Because if
right?
you're afraid of it, you won't go near it.
Right. We avoid
and you'll
the
avoid
pain.
it and you'll
we
be
avoid,
okay.
right? We avoid the turmoil or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily good advice. That's not necessarily being a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're afraid of failure, that's one of the things we're getting in our own way. When we're afraid to try, I'm not talking about being a risk taker and do crazy stuff. Sometimes you might want to do that.
That's why you're
but right, we want to be good to ourselves, but we can't be good to ourselves when we don't realize when we're being bad to ourselves.
Right. And if you're smalling yourself up and not allowing yourself to live your best life, you are depriving yourself of opportunities and the world as well. Sharing your gift is not just about you, it's about the world. So we're going to stop for a small break, but during this break, if you can, answer this question. How many words that we use currently are in the English language? Do not Google this if you're at home. Think about this. How many words do you think we use and are usable in the English language? We'll be right back after this break.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. Fill out the Propose a Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about our thoughts.
Yes.
And our language and how they connect. And we just left off talking about how we can get in our own way and not be good friends to ourselves. And one of the interesting things I find personally, for myself, one of my love languages is time.
Okay.
I don't have to be talking with somebody that I really love in order to spend time with them. We could just sit and watch TV. We could sit and do nothing. We can even sleep. And for me, that counts.
That counts
time,
as time spent.
Right?
Okay.
But how much time do we spend with ourselves? Just alone. Not just because you're introverted and need to recharge, but...
He just called me out. It just called me
It
out.
happens sometimes. But how much time do we really spend with ourselves? And do we like our own company? Are we okay with our own thoughts? Some people wouldn't even want to stay in the same room with themselves. Give them 5 minutes and they can't handle it anymore.
They cannot handle
right?
it, yep.
It's important to be able to be with yourself. Because if you can't be with yourself, you can't be good to yourself.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
So it's a process. Journaling is a process of being with yourself in a way that is so fruitful and enriching.
So journaling is like it's quality time with yourself.
Yeah.
It's a time that you put aside and it's for you,
Yeah.
by you, with you,
Yeah.
that you can reflect on your day and record your thoughts. And we're going to talk a little bit, like not in depth because the seminar is at 8:30, but we'll talk about, an effective way to journal so that you can reflect, because again, it's about self-awareness. And we can go through decades of our lives and not be aware of ourselves. And something you said about, being unable to spend time alone. And I've known people like that they always have to be on. They have to have people around them all the time. It's got to be loud. It's got to be, and this isn't just during a teen phase or, young partying phase. It's always. And it is because, and I've asked people that I've known like that, is because they can't stand to be alone. They don't like the thoughts that run through their head. It gets negative. It gets dark. And so they look for external forces and external stimuli to keep them up and okay. And I think that a big part of that healing would be to sit with those thoughts and process them, get them down on paper. And I did a little bit of research before we came, and for everybody who's, done the long haul in school, note-taking is essential. And I know I was one of those students that if I took notes, I didn't study. I was able to do very well without actually studying. But I was also one of those people with 4 highlighters, 3 different kinds of pens, the underline. I'd see another person's notes and go, oh, those are beautiful, and rewrite my notes. And this was something that I would do often. And there is a completely different mechanism that happens with your brain and the connections and your retention and your memory when you write. It is a neuropsychological phenomenon. There are different compartments of your brain that process sight and sound and emotion, and writing something down, it connects. And there was a study done where half the students wrote notes, the other half didn't, and they all remembered about 40%. But what the real difference is that the ones who took notes remembered the important topics, where the ones who didn't, it was more of a random, disconnected, information. And one of the reasons for that is because when you pick up the pen and you go to write, there still has to be a process where you figure out what you're going to write. You have to think about what you're actually going to record. So the teacher's speaking, and you have to kind of summarize in your head, figure out what's important, and write that down. And bringing that to other kinds of writing, like journaling, our days, what goes on in our days. There's a constant monologue in your head. Yeah. It's going all the time. So there's no way for you to go home and write that all down. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down the things that you consider important.
That's right.
Right? And that's how now... He's going to tell you the rest because I told you I figure things out as I go, right? And that is how you're going to start to see the pattern in what's important to you.
And this is what's really interesting, because you know me. I'm about many things. But a therapeutic process, whether you're talking about formal therapy or just you being with yourself, you're going to increase your awareness, you're going to increase your tolerance, number 2, and you're going to increase your intentionality. So what you talked about, what that study is talking about, is when we write, we are intentional about what we're going to focus on.
Exactly.
And when we think generally, we're on autopilot. We're not thinking about what we're thinking.
No.
And what we unintentionally and unwittingly do is we reinforce the very things we don't like about our lives. And then we wonder why we're here again, because we're thinking those things and we don't even know. We don't know how to challenge and how to change those things. We know we don't like them, but just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it's not familiar, doesn't mean that it's not present. And what we know, we do. So it's so important to know what it is that you are thinking about so that you can think about something different or think about it differently.
Right. And the thing is the things that we don't like can still be comfortable to us.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually, you would think that's contrary, but it's not. There's comfort in familiarity, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're used to something, it's a lot easier to go back to. It's like going home on autopilot. You've lived in the same place for 10 years.
Right.
You just end up there, even though you were going somewhere else. Now, before the break, I asked how many words are there that we use in the English language. If you didn't know and you didn't write in the comments, the answer is about 170,000 English words. And Andrew was saying that he believes that about 30,000 of those describe emotion. So there's a lot of different ways to express how you feel. Words do matter. And so the words that you're telling yourself in your head every day, the choices that you use, not good enough, mediocre, those are the things that are reinforced. So when the job comes up, you don't apply because you've been telling yourself very consistently all the time, you're kind of mediocre. You're not good enough for that.
Right.
And so you have to change the monologue. But if so now you've been thinking about yourself like this for 28 years. For as long as you can remember, this has been your train of thought. You started journaling, you've identified, because now you're writing it down, you're bringing up the things that are most important to you, and so you realize that there's this theme of not being enough. What do you do to change it? Is it simply now repeating something else to replace it and to cause the belief?
Well, I want to back up and clarify one thing, a couple things first, because there's a difference between what we feel and what we think. There's a big difference, and if you want to know what the difference is,
You have to come to the seminar.
right, just tune into the webinar.
Okay.
It will be worth your while. There's a big difference, and even if we have a desire to change our thoughts, if we don't know how to do that, then we're likely not going to get very far.
Okay.
Right? So it's important to be able to tease apart your emotions from your thoughts. And then there are different levels of thoughts. There are automatic thoughts, but then there are deeper thoughts and core beliefs, right? There are layers to these things. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit of time to really start to peel these back and be like, oh, this is a familiar thought. This is a familiar theme. Okay. Then you get to ask yourself questions. Not just where did this thought come from, but do I really believe this thought? Well, maybe I do, but did you realize you can believe two different things at the same time?
Absolutely.
So it's important to be able to bring those things to the surface, and then you get to choose which you want to believe. Now, the webinar doesn't go into this, but I think it's relevant here because there's a self-concept, which a cognitive construct, but then I believe we have an experiential self-concept. This is literally what it feels like to be me.
Okay.
So we might, talk to ourselves and say this about ourselves, but then we go into a different environment and we don't feel that way. Right? So the reason why I'm talking about this, it's situational when we haven't really sorted through all of those beliefs, right? Because then we kind of become compartmentalized. When I'm with this group of people, I feel this way. When I'm with this group of people, I can be myself, and I can't be myself this way. Why? What is that about? There are some underlying beliefs and experiences that we've internalized, and we believe them on a different level. It's not just a cognitive conscious level. We believe them part of our life experience. So how does something move from this level to this level? It's a process, but one of the major things is repetition.
Okay. Yeah.
Repetition is powerful. More powerful than what anybody says to you or to me is what we say to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And if you say something to me and I don't like it and I don't believe it, but if I dwell on it and I keep repeating it over and what do you think is going to happen after a while?
You'll start to believe it.
I'm going to start to believe it. If I'm not intentional about challenging it, it becomes part of my own I internalize it. It's part of my own voice. So sometimes we can't shake the things that have happened to us as kids. It's not because what happened to us, it's not because of what it's because we've repeated it over
and over.
And we're not aware that we're repeating it. And when we relive those moments, when we see them, we feel them. And that becomes part of our experiential self-concept. So we might be a full-grown adult, might have moved out of home. A lot of people talk about this. You move away from home, and then you go home for Christmas, or you go home, and you are right back there.
You're 9 years old.
Right?
Yeah.
Experiential self-concept. They haven't, that experiential self hasn't grown up with the rest of them,
Right.
the rest of them. So believe it or not, journaling can really seed into that and help people get caught up.
So he said a lot of interesting things. I don't even know where to start, but that's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that now how powerful is that for children who often aren't in a position where they can speak up? And so they're being told something. You're so lazy. You're so dumb. You're so whatever negative thing, or it could be positive, which we hope. But as an adult, it can be so easy to fall into someone else's view of you, because as you said, they say it, you don't agree with it, you don't believe it, but then you keep repeating it, and then it becomes part of your idea of who you are. And that idea of being different or feeling inadequate in certain areas. And I was thinking about the people that I know that seem to move through their lives with confidence, that are very aware of who they are, and they tend to remain the same wherever they are. I mean, obviously if you're on the basketball court versus in, an office, there'll be a slight difference in behavior, but their core stays the same. Right? Whereas people who are more insecure about themselves, there'll be certain situations where they're full of bravado. They're the man, they're loud. And then as soon as you take them out of that, they completely lose themselves. They completely lose themselves. So when we come back from this break, we have a little video for you. We're going to talk a bit more about fear and how your self-perception and your ideas of what you can do stop you and get in your own way. So we'll be right back after this break.
Welcome to Shadow Auto.
You're not alone, Anisha. Lots of people love watching baby animals.
Yeah, this is why he used them.
Yeah, it's, we personify, the animals around us. And
Absolutely.
we give them the ability to think, but it makes us think, You see things happen in life, and it kind of moves you sometimes. But we don't really put words to those things. But we do it in our own lives. We do it day in and we do it day out, and unintentionally at that. So when we are stressed, we talk differently to ourselves. We talk differently to other people.
Yes,
when we are tired,
yes.
when we are hungry,
Hangry.
right?
Angry.
I keep on coming back to my girls because there is a God, because he's keeping them sane. Because everybody looks at me and they're like, that guy, he must no. I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball many a times, right?
Really? Wow.
I'm just getting better at picking it up.
Okay, I like that.
So, I thought I was patient. I thought I was a patient man.
You did.
Until I had these little ones. It's a whole different world. But I realize when I'm tired, when I'm frustrated, when I'm at the kitchen sink doing dishes for the 4th or 5th time for the day, right? And I start to blame people for the dishes being in the sink, right? It's just, I have my own internal dialogue. And okay, and now I can talk to myself. Andrew, okay, it's gonna be all right. They're just dishes. You're gonna be done these dishes in about 5 minutes. And it's gonna be okay. But again, not only am I aware of what I'm telling myself in this dialogue, but I also know myself as a person. I'm a different person in the morning than I am late at night. Mm-hmm. So it's better for me. It's better for everybody in my house sometimes if I just wash the dishes in the morning.
Right. Yes.
Just go to bed. Wash the dishes in the morning.
Just know your limitations. And that awareness, coming back to the awareness. And you just said something that is so important. If you're in denial because there's no, my internal conversation's not bad, it's good, I'm okay, I'm going through. You just said it. You speak to people differently when you're hangry. You speak to people differently when you're frustrated, even when we're trying to hold it back, right? Okay, I'm going to get to that in a moment. You sound frustrated, even though you're trying to sound calm. So now imagine that goes on in your head all of the time. It changes. It absolutely changes. And I know for myself, when I started this journey several years ago of changing the internal dialogue, monologue, changing what I thought, first it was to catch the thoughts. You have to be aware of them first. You have to know what you're thinking in order to change it. And It is automatic. It just happens. Your brain is on all the time. You are always with yourself.
Right. And if you think about those major life moments, we're not usually calm and serene and all this good stuff. No. Stuff's going to be going on. And that's when you want to be really aware and intentional with your thoughts. But it takes practice. Mm-hmm. It's like a marathon. You don't wait till the day of the marathon to get ready for the race.
You get up and you run.
You break something. You pull something, especially if you're 40-something. That's just how it happens. But you train and you get ready. The same thing is true for us knowing ourselves and managing our thoughts and changing our thoughts. We want to do it now when there's not a lot going on. And sometimes that's the beauty of pulling away and having a moment to journal. Whether you're reflecting on something that didn't go right or you're reflecting on something that did go well, it's an opportunity to slow down. One of the things that I love about writing, it's not only helps you focus, but it forces you to slow down and attend to one thought.
Yes.
Like you get to follow one train of thought from the first stop to the last stop. Whereas if you're not writing this down, these thoughts come in a mile a minute. You move from one topic to the next topic, the next topic, the next topic. And before you know it, you don't even know where you started. Right? So it's important and beneficial to slow things down, grab a pen. I've been journaling for 20 years, mm-hmm. and I used to try the typing. Mm-hmm. Didn't work. At least with my brain, it didn't work. It's a different thought process because when I'm typing, I hate the red line that says you spelled that word wrong. So I'm gonna back it up. And I've lost my train of thought.
Exactly.
Right? I'm more focused on the spelling, whereas when I'm writing, it doesn't matter.
There's no spell check.
Right? It's just, it doesn't have to be neat either.
Right.
Sometimes I'm tired and it's going to be illegible, but it doesn't matter. I'm getting the thought out of my head onto the paper, and it actually helps me sleep.
That thing about the thought out of your head onto the paper, that's to me now, maybe. I think in a way my to-do lists are also they're a record of my aspirations of the day Ticking those boxes always makes me happy. But something that makes me even more happy now, I used to be very obsessed with, I'd write a list. I write a list every day, and I want to tick everything off. I've let that go. I want to do what I do effectively and do it well. So sometimes my 8-point list, I get 2 things done, and I pat myself on the shoulder, say, good job, Erica, and I go to bed. But what you were saying about, again, that train of thought and writing it down and spending that time with yourself. But when you're journaling, now, is it, because I have a gratitude journal that I got from McKinney Smith, and the interesting thing about the gratitude journal is it's repetitive, right? It's what are you grateful for today? And my bed is usually on that list. I cannot lie. I love my bed. I'm always grateful for shelter and different things. And some days different things happen, so I'm really grateful for those things. But my gratitude is pretty consistent. But what I learned is, as you said, it's through repetition and it's the pattern. So now when I look back over weeks and weeks, it starts to make it clear what's important to me and what, really stands out to me in my life. That even on big days when things happen, I'm so grateful to put my key in my own door and see my kids and, so what's really important. But that idea of, as you said, one, spending time with yourself, honoring yourself with that moment. You have 24 hours in a day, you sleep for X amount, you work for X amount, and so forth. But at the end of it, what's there for you? And you had brought it up with love language. When you have people in your life that you love, one of the things that is really important to you is to spend time with them.
Right.
And you have to be one of the people that you value in your life. You have to make yourself a priority. A busy dad, therapist, webinar, maker, all of this, and still taking the time every day to sit down with yourself and write down your thoughts. Now, when you journal, Andrew, this is what happened today? Is it like a story of reflection of the day? Or is it more factual? This is what happened? Or is it, this is how I felt about what happened?
So it varies. And that's one of the things I'll talk about in the webinar. There's different kinds of journaling, the gratitude. And what I like about effective journaling is it incorporates all of those.
Okay.
You can use it to chronicle events of the day, or you can use events or your mood, whatever, as a point of focus to get started. But it moves it deeper, and it really pulls things apart, and it enables you to kind of stand back and look at how you contribute and how you engage with these things that you're grateful for and who you're grateful to. And that's why I call it effective. Again, it really targets those 3 things: awareness, tolerance, and intentionality. And in keeping with the theme of purpose for the month, the reality is everyone, I believe, is created with purpose. We have potential. But we won't understand that potential or our purpose if we don't understand ourselves. And we often look for people outside of us to tell us who we are, what we can do, what we're good at. And there's a place for that. However, I've discovered that if you want to know your purpose, you look out into the world for what's missing. Because that's your part. Everybody has a part to play. Your part is going to be uniquely different than anybody else's. So when you realize what it is that you have to contribute, and you're like, okay, this is a spot for me. Yeah, that's a fit. That's good. But you can't engage. You won't be able to engage that way if you don't know what it is that you have to give, right? And then, that ties into, do you value who you are and what you have to give? And you can tell that could track back. Like, we will trace back to, where did these thoughts come from?
Yes.
When did I start devaluing myself or comparing myself? But more important, honestly, than where it started is knowing what I can do about it now.
To end it, right? What you can do to change
it. And the opportunity is here, and it's now, right?
Absolutely. When we come back from this break, we're going to wrap up. We're going to put it all together, and there's something else that Andrew taught us about our baggage. that we bring forward with us. So I'd like to tie it all together. Actually, I'm going to make him tie it all together because he does it so well. But I think that was amazing. Our sense of purpose, our sense of place in the world, our self-awareness, and changing the monologue in our head. It is the most powerful thing you will ever do in your whole life. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to this edition of What Matters. We are wrapping up our January of Purpose, and I wish you a whole year of purpose. But this episode, we're speaking about self-awareness, clarity, finding your voice. And in previous episodes, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you've got to get on the What Matters playlist, pull up all the ones with Andrew, and this theme, it runs throughout. He's a genius. It runs throughout all of our conversations. And the analogy of the baggage that we carry, everybody's got bags. And I always find it funny when people say, well, I don't want anybody with baggage. Ha ha ha. That does not happen. It does not exist. I don't care if you're 16 years old, because your mom packed some bags for you. Your grandma packed some bags for you. The people who weren't there packed some bags for you.
Your neighbor came over and put some things in.
Put some stuff in your bag.
When you weren't looking.
When you weren't looking. And so you go through life and you got your little bags, and you have to open them up.
Yeah.
And look at them and say, okay, well, this isn't mine, and I don't want it.
Right.
And, this is mine. You fold it back nice. If you watch a Marie Kondo, you fold it all in your little square, you put it back in. And this is how you travel through life. So you don't need to keep getting trunks and bags and duffel bags. No, you can leave some stuff behind. But we all have baggage. And it's seen negatively, but not all baggage is bad.
Right.
Right? It's part of who you are.
Exactly. It's what we take with us. So I used to have 10-piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you have a hat box?
Set. I had everything. And now, similar to how I like to travel on the plane, I just have a one-piece carry-on.
Yes, carry. Yep.
That's it. I don't need all that stuff.
Right.
I'm telling you, I used to be so afraid. I mean, paranoia. I used to think people fixing the wire lines or listening to my conversations.
I'm sorry.
I'm serious. I'm serious. So, while we were on the break, Anisha and Erica were kind of commenting on my level of introspection.
He's so smart.
I see, and I'm laughing. People are like, that guy's so cocky, he's laughing. And people go, no, I'm laughing because if you knew what I thought about myself years ago, not even too long ago, I mean, you'd be amazed. So I've come a long way, and journaling has really helped me. People ask, how do you do what you do? How do you not take it home? The work and the weight of it. I take it home. Mm-hmm. I take it home, and I don't necessarily put people's names in my journal, but how I process all of this stuff, I don't carry it with me. And I'm a spiritual person. I'm a person of faith, and so my journaling is prayer too. Right. So I can be like, Lord, I'm feeling this way about this situation, or I'm thinking this about it. So there's so much room to again, journal effectively. So it's, you talked about tying these things together. The reality is they're all connected and they always will be connected.
Yes.
You will always be connected to your sense of self, your sense of purpose, whether or not you found it or not, it's going to be there. So it makes sense to kind of take the time, dig into it, understand it, and really invest in yourself.
Invest in
in yourself.
Yes, yes.
You cannot have your best life without investing in yourself. You cannot give your best to other people if you're not your best.
Absolutely.
Right? So it takes the time, it takes you to prioritize and make the time. So I like to speak about myself. That way I'm not talking about other people and talking people's business and all that stuff. But I've come a long way with understanding myself, and that has helped me to be the way that I am with people when I'm helpful.
That is amazing. And again, he makes me reflect so much when he speaks. And I don't have my pen with me because I've been writing a mile a minute. But that connection between what people see or perceive of you and what you perceive of yourself, sometimes it's connected and sometimes it's not. Something people have told me for a very long time is I'm very confident. And what's funny is the confidence is a lot more recent than people think it is, because this has been basically my whole life. I mean, I like to talk, so I was never afraid of public speaking and so forth. But it doesn't mean when I got up I wasn't scared.
Right.
I wanted to go up, but then sometimes I would get up there and I'd be like, well, what did I do? And I would roll through. So sometimes it made me feel bad because I felt very disconnected from the image people had of me. And it's not that I was trying to fake anything. It's just that's how I was perceived. And then the conversation in my head wasn't that. So I felt very disconnected from everyone else's view of me. But as you get stronger in your own voice and your self-awareness and who you are and what you're about and how you feel and how you process it, as much as I mean, I do love compliments. I can't lie. I love a compliment. And I do appreciate critique as well because it makes me better. But the outside voices don't matter as much as my own.
Right.
And that shift of power is tremendous because it changes how you walk through the world. Other people's perceptions no longer control you. As you said earlier, I think it was in segment 2 where it was like somebody says something to you, you don't like it, and then you're like, that's not true. And then you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you repeat it, and then it becomes your truth, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to be able to, especially when you surround yourself with people that you respect and you like, do take their feedback. I think it's really important in your development. But when you develop an awareness and a strong sense of self and why you think what you think, and you said something and you could find out in the seminar, which I'm going to, I think it's very interesting that you say what you think and what you feel.
Very different.
I'm stuck there. I'm going to learn tonight, but I'm surprised at that. Anisha, does that surprise you? Did you think what you think and what you feel are the same? No?
No. I thought it was very different. Like, what I feel, I'm aware of what I feel, but I don't always think what I feel.
That does make sense.
Right.
See,
we're going to tease it apart because we use this language interchangeably. Mm-hmm. Feel, emotion, think, mood. But we're gonna break them apart so we can be more intentional. There's that word intention. We can be more intentional about what we're feeling, what emotion we're in, what mood, all those kinds of things. And then we can kind of be intentional about putting these pieces together so we are really mastering our own thoughts. Mm-hmm. I think it's a process that everybody will at least get benefit from if they get exposed to it.
I agree.
Yeah, it makes a very, very big difference.
It makes a huge difference because there's been times I like to ask challenging questions. It's something that I do, and it's not to put people on the spot, but people express very strong views on something, And again, I'm not here to change what you think, but breaking it down into, how did you come to that, or why do you feel that way, or what does that look like for you? That's one of my favorite new questions in the world, is what does that look like? Oftentimes, well, that's not right. Okay, well, what does right in that situation look like? And that stumps people a lot.
You know what? And that's exactly what effective journaling helps you do with yourself.
Right.
It enables you to ask those questions and get those answers. When you were talking about the situation, and I was listening, I even got distracted because I was trying to tease apart the pattern that was in there. You were talking about somebody seeing you a certain way and you feeling nervous, and that internal incongruence. It didn't kind of match up
at all.
And it sounds like in that period of your life there was some all or nothing thinking. Either I am nervous and I'm not good, I'm not competent, or I am the way that they picture me.
Mm-hmm.
It's black or it's white. It's one or the other. When most of the times in reality, it's gray.
Right.
Or a whole bunch of other colors. You were nervous, and you were probably also very good.
Right.
Right? You could be scared. That book, it's ages old now, but, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It really taps into that whole reality that it's not just about feeling good and feeling strong in order to be good and strong. You can be good and strong and still feel nervous.
Right.
And it's not incompatible and it's not incongruent. When you know that, you can hold that and not talk yourself out of opportunities, not talk yourself out of your dreams. Another friend, it's the same friend, he's really brilliant. Nick, I'm giving you a lot of credit here. He said a phrase yesterday and it blew my mind. He said, don't allow your fears to grow bigger than your dreams.
I like that.
And I was just like, yeah, because that's what we do and we don't even know it. We're feeding our fears.
What do you feed?
We're cultivating, we're watering it, we're giving it fertilizer.
Yeah.
Like every day we're paying attention to.
This could go
okay?
wrong.
You okay?
You all right?
Right? What
Okay,
if this?
hold on. You
What
want
if
some
that?
more sun?
Right?
Put you in
when
the
your
light.
dream over here is being neglected. It's getting nothing. No airtime. Nothing. And when it comes up again, it's tapping you on the shoulder. Remember me? The purpose?
And then fear comes in. It's like, you're silly and you're
Right.
very unrealistic.
Right.
You need to
Yeah,
pipe
but-
down.
Right, yeah, no. But I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have that.
I can't give up my job.
Right?
People aren't gonna like
I need
this.
the job.
And-
Right? If we were to write that down and learn, okay, it's this flavor, it's this pattern of thought, then we'll be more analytical. Not so much critical, right? In a negative way, but more in a sense of being intentional about what we're thinking and the impact that our thoughts are having.
Absolutely. And before we go, what you just said about intentional. Now, it's not that you catch yourself in a negative thought or a negative pattern and you use different words and all of a sudden it's switched. As you said, this is work and it's going to take time and it's in repetition and all of those things. But it's the intention. So when you realize that you are feeding, watering, fertilizing all of your fears all of the time, and your dreams get no airplay, as you put it, I really like how you put that, then you can be intentional about paying more attention to them, spending more time thinking about them, imagining what it would be like, planning for it, researching it, finding out what it takes. And that energy that you are now using to feed that dream, you're starving that fear because you're not putting the time into it. So the change will come and it will be gradual. Sometimes it's sudden. Sometimes it feels sudden because it clicks. Yeah. But it was the work that was put in behind it. So the connection between our potential, our self-awareness, mm-hmm. our internal dialogue, all of those things are connected. And again, we invite you, we'll put up, can you put up the information about the webinar? Yeah? So we're going to put the information up about the webinar. He's driving less than I am, so if anything, you're gonna have to email Andrew. But it is at 8:30 our time, Eastern Standard Time, and you are welcome to join. The link is there. It's also on my page. It's on Andrew's page on Facebook. It's also on your Instagram website.
www.coachdrew.ca.
Coachdrew.ca. I'm really excited, so I'm going to drive safely but effectively home so that I can join in. So 6 steps to effective journaling. Change your thought process, and you will change your life. It is guaranteed. Yeah. And so we thank you once again for joining us here for What Matters. I am Erica Elita.
Coach Drew.
And we will see you again. We will be again together next month.
Looking forward to it.
And we will have a special guest with us. I'm looking forward to that. And next month it is Black History Month, so we will be talking about race relations and Black history and many other wonderful things in the theme of the month. So I will see you next week. Have a great one.